Hey, this is Greg Johnson with Blue Book Services. I'm joined today by Anne-Marie Roerink, owner of 210 Analytics. And Anne-Marie, you came out with your monthly retail report this week. And I have to say, looking at the October numbers, most of the numbers were fairly as we would expect as far as produce growth is still up year over year. But what I was most interested in is kind of how you closed the piece, and it's talking about what November will look like. Because as we know, right before Thanksgiving, November has been a lot different than the previous couple months. So what would you say are a couple highlights of what we should be looking at and what was trending as October went into November numbers?
Yeah, so to your point, month after month, we've seen a little bit of erosion, like kind of that slow march back to normal, and we're still sitting above year ago levels, but it is becoming a whole lot less pronounced than it was back in March and April. However, now fast forward to November, and we have several indications that that line is going to reverse. One of them is the way Thanksgiving is looking to stack up, and now we're a mere few days ahead of Thanksgiving. But we did a survey in October, and people were just indicating that they're celebrating very, very differently, and that will absolutely impact the produce purchase. So normally 48% are hosting or attending an extended family type of gathering. This year, that is only about 38%, so much, much lower. People are celebrating smaller gatherings, maybe several smaller gatherings. They are shopping earlier. Another difference might be that when you're just with your own family, you might not buy that enormous turkey, but you might buy either a turkey breast or maybe a pork roast or a beef roast. That will likely result in different types of vegetables that go with that. So we're seeing a host of changes from the survey. Now, fast forward to this week, I'm getting reports from retailers all over the United States that are saying, we have not had to meter the entry into the store, but we're right back at it. The lines are long. We're seeing people buy differently. Everything is just different about this Thanksgiving. In addition to even before the Thanksgiving started, the increase in case counts, especially in the northern states, where on top of it, restaurants had to sort of close down due to the temperatures, we're seeing everyday demand starting to ramp back up as well. So I expect November is going to reverse that line right back up.
One of the things I saw that you noted is that a third of people expect to spend less on Thanksgiving, but isn't the flip side of that true? More people are buying stuff for Thanksgiving. So does that mean possibly more sales of, say, smaller bags of potatoes as opposed to a couple of big 10-pound bag purchases? Those kinds of scenarios.
Absolutely. I think we're going to see a whole lot less big packages being sold, same as the big turkey, translating into more of a turkey breast or a turkey tenderloin. I think we're going to see the same on the produce side. So probably not the 10-pound bag of potatoes or Brussels sprouts or whatever people like to buy, but smaller amounts in really everything. And then, like I mentioned, we might even see some different produce items spike if people divert to a different type of protein as well. So I think we're going to see differences. But at the same time, Greg, I think this year has just been crazy for everybody. And so I expect that there are a lot of people out there who are looking forward to the traditional Thanksgiving dinner, even if it's just with their own family, where they do make the turkey, the green bean casserole, the mashed potatoes. So I think it's going to be a mix of both.
Now, one of the things we're seeing also with being in late November, different areas of the country are experiencing the rise in cases differently. For instance, in the Northeast and in big cities, they really had a very high spring wave, and that missed a lot of the rural parts of the country. And now we're seeing the rural parts really start to get a lot of cases. So do you think as you look at November numbers, you'll start to see a big shift regionally in the different kinds of buying?
Yeah, absolutely. I think March was so unique because, when we have events like big snowstorms or hurricanes, we see people drive to the store and stacking up as if, the store is going to be closed for 2 months. We saw that same behavior in March, but it wasn't regional like it is when there is a snowstorm or a hurricane, when there are only a small percentage of stores affected. It was everywhere, every category, the whole store was affected. I think that what is going to be different this time is, first of all, people have some confidence in the system. They know that they're going to be leaving the house. They can shop. They might not be able to buy the brand or the exact type of produce that they were going to buy, but there's going to be something. So the panic is going to be less, number one. And number two, I think it is going to be much more regionalized. You and I talked a little bit before. I'm in Florida. Other than people wearing masks when they're in the store, you know, there really isn't any type of panic purchasing happening right now. But then I'm getting footage and pictures and stories out of the Northeast, some of the states that are talking about renewed shelter in place. And sure enough, we see much greater droves of people go back to the store. So I think the regional aspect of this is going to be the different story this time around.
I do too, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that's going to look as we look at those numbers. And then, of course, we'll be able to talk about the next big holiday.
Yeah, I suspect that that one's going to be very different as well. Probably very similar in that regard. Smaller gatherings, less travel. If you look at TSA numbers, they're down to about a third of what they normally are. I can't imagine that with the spike we normally see during the holidays, that is going to be much higher than a third, if not lower. So it's going to be very different yet again.
All right. Well, Anne-Marie, I really appreciate your insight and expanding on what we learned from the numbers this week, and we look forward to talking to you again.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, and have a happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to all our audience too.